It's another replay cast. Reminder, if you have a good replay, like not just haha, watch me absolutely wreck this guy, I'm so good at this game kind of replay, but like something actually entertaining, something very close, or something where you think, hey, that is actually interesting to watch for one reason or another. Upload it to my Discord server, ping me and tell me, hey, cast this or give it a shot. We got this. Sent in by, I think it's the major, obviously, right? When you're playing and winning against somebody higher ranked, uh, you know, it gives you a good confidence boost. I've been there. I am there, actually. But still, you know, we'll see, we'll see. Big time. What does this even say? Okay, I'm not gonna read this out loud. We got. Is this Entente? This is Entente. All right. M84 AN. Drop 2. There's basically only one deck where both can be in, and that's, well, with this veterancy at least, and that is Unspec. And on team 2, we got Soviets Unspec. Very expensive opener. KA52, 2 KA29 CVs, Bomb. That is peak Soviets, which is just spend all your points and get 5 units. Ooh, OTM 5 reservists. Now, those are the Yugo reservists. They're also upfitted. I'm not a fan of them because they're 10 points base plus 5 point transport. So for 50 points you just get one squad. Of course, that squad has 15 HP, so it takes a lot more damage, but I'd still prefer the check squads because for 10 points you get a squad, sure, with only 10 HP, but you get just for the same points, you get more individual units, which also helps survivability. And you get 1 HP per point plus a 5-pointer. Versus, well, I mean, still the same, but for 15, well, you get the same HP per point, but you get 1 5-pointer for per 10 points versus in this case 1 5-pointer per 50 points. And while that's a 50 cal, it only has 280 kilometers autonomy. Ultimately, it's probably not a huge difference, but I will die on the hill saying that the check ones are just better in general. But at the same time, it's probably not really a huge deal. Now, whether or not it's worth to upvet them, it isn't. It really isn't. They're not meant to fight. They're not meant to hit anything. Just, I think the amount of times where the additional availability comes into play is higher than the amount of times where the extra veterancy comes into play. Okay, so where's red pushing? Probably to the right, but you never know with Soviets. Yeah, it looks like they're right. Not a single tank, but that's what you get when you buy K-52 and 2 CVs with 40 point CV helicopters. Blue going for a pretty wide opener, actually. Or wants to presumably contest both this and that. Actually, I guess if there's a deck where it can work against, it might be Soviets because they have often have so few individual units. And if you manage to snipe like 1 or 2 key ones, it can definitely work, but at the same time, there's a reason why so many of these units are so expensive, and that's because single individual units can have a humongous impact. Now, there's not a single piece of AA here because the K-52 is over there. Actually, the only piece of ground AA is the Scratchet, so there's nothing denying the L-17K just sniping helicopters left and right, which is obviously great. Finally, Yak 1 being brought out. Wasn't this already bought anyway? Wasn't this already out before? You have your weapons jammed and finally die. Just like a Berota dealt a good amount of damage. These guys being unloaded way too late. I can only assume that whatever is happening down here cost the red player quite a bit of micro over there. Horrible opener for a Soviet player. A horrible opener. It's certainly not easy to play Soviets with such an opener and these expensive units. So you gotta be confident in your abilities and can't afford to lose units like that, in all honesty, right? Obviously, yeah, like losing your M8, MTV, L-17K, nothing special, right? Or like not much you can do. But the BTR-90 here, not unloading and all that stuff. Blunder, honestly. Blunder. Scratchy also still not being unloaded. There you go, probably on a shift queue. Gotta be careful with that. That said, I am missing some reserves over here as well. Not a great placement for the specialty. That said, again, pushing on all fronts. Conquers does have the opportunity to do a funny thing, but look at it. Threading the needle and missing. Fortunately for our blue player, who does spot it thanks to the specialty, the M84A also has stealth, so I'm not sure if those guys would even spot it if it shot out of the forest. Scratchet and Igla killing the Mi2, which is great. Very slow push here. I definitely like to see those OT64As just driving in there and probing. And depending on what you see, you might have a chance to get push this stuff out with your Lekka and your M84A. And you killed a lot of helicopters. You saw the AK-52. You saw that there's 2 CVs. You must assume, especially against a Soviet player, there's just not much in there. But at the same time, especially when you're winning this, I can also fully understand trying to take it slow here, not trying to potentially throw away the foothold you have here. Because while you have, especially while you have full control over this, that foothold is worth just so much. That means you have full control over that zone while contesting the other neutral zone, right? Which is basically an ideal position, especially from this side where pushing your 2-pointer. It's not something you see very often, or at least not done successfully very often. Okay, Red is just licking its wounds, their wounds. Those TOs are not gonna stand a chance here. Super Bazooka's obviously missing. Stunning because they have quite high suppression, or like panicking the BTR 90, and even the specialty. But other than that, it's not gonna do anything. And I assume Red is licking blood and wants to push further in here. Gotta be careful though, if you let Soviets get a position here, and very badly when you go up against PMPTs, BTRTs, and VDV-19 here, against you're again just holding you back. Definitely late on reinforcing this, I'd say. Having essentially only a specialty here is not gonna do much. And those TOs, while of course they don't cost much, they're not gonna stop anything, right? So, yeah. Tab 71's coming in with what I assume are gonna be Proletariat 90, given the veterans. It could be... okay, I was gonna say it could also be Baritska Pesh, but given the fact that you have recruits rifles with these guys already, it's unlikely. Also, very interesting infantry tab actually. What do we have here? Proletariat in the wheel transport, Lekka Pechota in the MS-17, no, in the OT-64A. Conquers M's in the OT-62A. That's 3 cards. OTs with the TOs with the M5s. I never realized that these guys had OTs in the, TOs in the OTs. What is the 5th card? Could be, or should hopefully be, Patobranzi 90. You should probably never skip those. But it also means you have like no cheap PvP spam, which is an interesting choice, and the choice that I would not recommend doing. L17K, ooh, gets out alive on 1 HP. Scratchet, oh no, it doesn't. Scratchet dealt 4 damage because Scratchet is absolutely busted. Link 29 drops its bombs, but I don't think it really did it much. Might have finished off one of the crew squads. There you go, BTRT. Even against like Proletariat 90 that weren't baited by anything, already like almost killed an entire squad there. Just imagine if Saperi had been there in front of the BTRT. It's dropped 2 kills, the MI7, M8 MTV. Betzel's crew still have not been pushed out yet. Very slow with this push here. And TO's actually scaring those, but I can understand why, right? If you're encountering TOs, you're probably going to expect something to be behind them. So it's a smart decision to move those back. Gotta be careful there. TOs are, of course, or reserves are, of course, great at just drawing fire and exposing units. But you also gotta have the firepower behind them, right? Which is, in both cases, actually just a single M84, and yeah, okay, good choice. You gotta be careful with those. And you ideally wanna stay in the forest. You wanna make use of your medium stealth, which still does something in the open, but is a lot more noticeable in the bush. MiG-29 coming in again. Yak 1 for 1. By the way, rule of thumb. assuming the MiG-29 didn't take any serious damage, it will be ready as soon as the flames are gone, more or less. I think shortly after the flames are gone, it has reloaded its weapons, right? If it took like 9 damage, of course, it's gonna take longer, but besides repairing a lot of damage, that is the longest rearming time. It takes much longer to rearm the bombs than it takes to refuel, which happens at the same time, by the way. But that is a very, very neat little thing there. That said, it probably would be smart to have like a rough timer for when like a Nighthawk or something is reloaded. I don't know, but I should probably know that, because especially for a plane like that, that would be very important. B1 and 84N trade shots. Never M1T hits one of its shots. Yak 141 still circling. But keep in mind, wow, we're quite lucky. Keep in mind, planes do not have reduced accuracy or actually any penalties to their stats when they're panicked, unlike every other class of units. That's just how it is. Probably for the better, but I don't know. That's just how it is. Whether you like it or not, it's just how Wargame works. That's a good amount of damage. T-72B1 is dead. Those are panic. Gotta be careful with these glass, but the TOs are... Nothing here is actually a threat to those Prussians until those proletariat move up. And those Spetsnaz... I don't know if they're gonna spot them. The BTRTs are also here. They miss. And now die. Another B1 coming up. B1 is not a tank you see it that much these days. You usually see T-64s or T-80s. Or the T-72B. B1? Not so much. It's still a solid tank, right? But it's somewhat fallen out of favor. You just... Oh, you missed. Oh no, you hit them. Never mind. Back in the day, it was a lot more common than T-64s and T-80s. And by back in the day, I mean like pre... I want to say Israel DLC. Yeah, I think with the Israel DLC, all the laser guided bombs lost their 100% accuracy. And that's another dead T-72B1. M84N turned still, obviously, just a crazy good unit. Being able to spot those VDV while essentially spotting them outside of the range while in force is just crazy. Like, look at this. No other tank can do that. Well, no other, because no other tank has very good optics. Oh, except for the Mercanning and the CTQ and the PSV. Do you remember? Do you remember what those when the CTQ was unique? This Crash is still alive. Iglar are dead, which is unfortunate. Should have retreated those. I don't know how they died. Yeah, they're not there anymore. M84AK coming in. This is finally cleared out because those Gru just retreated. Probably for the better, but that M84N just finally moving into a position where it can actually do anything. Oh yeah, this is also a neat little thing. Sometimes we gotta watch out for like bushes. Whether it's intended or not that they are in a bush, can be nice to have like a rig in here while still having a Conqueror's M or ATGM squad in that exact building, which is a very good building to have. What's better down here than the like a Perota building, but still just happening down there. But getting pincered left and right by the M84, you gotta be careful. Usually it is smart to attack move with your tanks whenever you move them, right? Because you don't want, ideally when they see something and can shoot at it, they want to show their front armor. The recon tanks, or well in general, sometimes it's just not the case, right? Especially recon tanks you want in a bush. So it might be smarter to just right click them somewhere if it's very important for them to be in a bush, right? Which is the case here. You want them to be in this or that bush. In this case, it probably wouldn't have mattered if they were in that bush, but in this bush back here, there's a good chance those crew would not have line of sight to the M84AN. But now that it's in the open, medium optics are enough to spot them, allowing the Conqueror's M to finish them off. Whereas if they sat in this bush, they still would have had the line of sight in this area while being safe-ish. Okay, never mind. They can also just kill the Conqueror's M. Fun and balance, and yeah, for some reason, in the ongoing tournament right now, Lord Pi decided to put this back into mech. Finally, an anti-air piece being bought. Manpads, scratch heads, and ASFs only get you so much. Manpads and scratch heads, especially if your most forward front line is being bombed, often don't quite have the range, and ASFs on a relatively large map like this can't really be used reaction as the reaction. Plus, they are easier to kill. Plus, they have downtime, like in this case when they're being repaired. It got out at 1 HP, if you remember, right? Luckily for our red player, but that bombing run didn't really do much. It panicked these guys, but other than that, nothing happened. M1T, pretty much impossible to counter, which is unfortunate. Kind of shutting down red airplay. 84 AKs in a interesting spot. Buildings can provide cover, but yeah, those should spot it, right? Yeah. But there can very often still be bushes there, or just, zoom in, and if you hold right click and drag your mouse a bit, you will see the outline of where a unit will move if you let go of right clicking again. For one, this also means that it will usually lock onto nearby cover. So if you right click drag from here to that way, it will sort of lock this unit into this bush. But it can also be good to like just check for, okay, where is it gonna be when I let go. And it's an easy way to like place it like behind this building, or like this is a neat little position because these buildings should basically block everything from this direction. Probably like some line of sight here and there, but there's also there's a bush here, but all the bushes are usually on the outer edges of the town, which is why it's not ideal. But usually just best to like within a town block is best, not between town blocks. So there's a good chance that eventually we're gonna see like a 27M or something coming in. On the other hand, though, right? Galaxy Brain is to actually bait your opponent into buying a 200-point plane to get your CV, because that means they can't invest that amount of points into ground units. That said, you spend 170 points, bait a 200-point unit. Is it actually worth it? It's the other side of the story, right? So realistically, you still want to have it safe here. Just put it into this. It's much safer for most vehicles, especially tanks, because it's much easier to quickly gain line of sight on a vehicle in a town than it is to get line of sight on a vehicle in a bush, right? Because a helicopter here will just spot into it. Oh, did you just get it B1 again? No, it was the OSA AKM. Cheeky. Should have known, though. Should have known. Lost the Conquer Stem to it. But our blue player making good use of those M84ANs. P64 B1, though, will outclass it. Oh, B1 versus 84AN again. 84 does have much better accuracy. And additional AP. Ooh, could have been a side shot there if he had been unlucky. Bomber, second bomber coming in. Scratch it is relatively far forward, but yeah. Oh, could have dealt a lot more damage if that plane wasn't there, because the ZU-23-2 does have a pretty high burst, but also pretty long reload time and pretty frequent reload time. Ooh, that's a dead drop too. If it had been ready, those Proletariat would have taken a lot more damage. Still would have killed the Scratch Head likely, very likely, but yeah. Decent position for a red player. I want to see some more VDVs. A Beam BT wouldn't be bad. I'm not really that happy with the amount of Iglas and Scratches. They clearly don't work out here against the bombers. Okay, Tunguska. Okay, much better though than these guys. It actually has a range and crazy burst damage with its gun. And against Entente, you typically don't have to worry too much about seed, because they only get a pretty bad seed, so many people don't run it, and if they run it, you can see it from a mile away. And then it can't even shoot from a mile away, it can only shoot from like 100 meters away, essentially. Okay, Crew are gonna be very important here, because these pushes are a nightmare to, like, for any player when you're going up against recon tanks. And they have much better stealth in the VDV, right? So the 84ANs have a harder time spotting them. But Brown C90, that's indeed the 5th card, are also a nightmare here, because that is prime, like... Oh, no. Okay, he did notice. How does he even spot? Oh, with those Bishania for. And that's why pushing here, when you have neither this nor that, is just kind of suicidal. It can work, and sometimes, yeah, there you go. Sometimes it can, because your opponent's focus here, then lead to you getting back into here, but it is still just, you're getting shot at left and right, and you have basically one somewhat safe corridor. Not even this here, right? This can get side shot. It's one, no, two side armor actually, so BMD2. BMD ones, or BMP ones have one side armor. Although, it's not the same thing, but I'm pretty sure BMD ones also have only one side armor. Gets it once. Yes, 27M. Fortunately, that never is on the right side. Both of them miss. Okay, one of them hits at least. That's a dead CV. Both times. There you go. 84 in killed the BMD. Ooh, Strop hits with the missile as well. Getting 5 damage. That gun, by the way, did 1 damage here. Just FYI. Strop 2 is bad. It's alright. I'm just a hater. But yeah, not looking good. So many reinforcements being lost from this 84 in here. So many snaps, thanks, like directly or indirectly through this 84 in there. And the other one that wasn't even died. For being bought for thus far made only use with the pram. 40-point supply truck. I'm not a fan of running the expensive 40-point ones when you have a fob. Make 29 being called out again. Tunguska, like, if you're in a position like this, you can't afford to be greedy with a Tunguska, I think. Tunguska, base Tunguska with only a missile on. I mean, I understand why you're afraid of Seed, but if you're this afraid with the Tunguska, just get the Tunguska M, which has much better missile. You buy the base Tunguska to make use of its gun, right? The base Tunguska's missile is, it's fine, but not that good. 50% base accuracy, less range than a Crotal for 75 points. Just, I wouldn't really bother microing its gun until you find a seed or you see a seed. There you go, that's much better. Let's see how much it does this time, right? Just look. 5 damage against a 40% ECM plane. Pretty okay. Not great. If it was further forward, right? If obviously would have dealt more damage, but that's just spags for you. And usually not the best against planes. Unless they're like really high in specs or like they're relatively close. But against 40% ECM planes. Okay, let's see. Is it gonna be turned on? I wanna see how much it does this time. It doesn't look like it. It's not even. Oh, it is on attack move. 30% accuracy, by the way. Yeah. The second one didn't even hit because it got told to move and now it dies. And the BB1 is probably gonna. With 2 HP it might survive, but it's stunned. Oh, it might not survive. Oh. Palbrands are getting stunned by this crash hit. Does it get out? Come on, keep moving. You're pretty close to the flames. You can still die. Absolute cinema. I told you. I don't know why it stopped moving. I don't think it was stunned anymore. 27M just circling, but this is over, man. After a butchered opening, I think, while I understand why they moved into mid, or like focused so much on mid, because, you know, very early on they realized there wasn't really much. You should have never given up this position in the forest. The forest is what I would say worth more than this town. I mean, especially from this side here. Although, if you have the town, it's probably easier to get into forest than vice versa. But especially when you push here, don't think you can without holding at least Foxtrot down here. But ideally, you want this as well. But not having this is just, obviously, right? Just suicidal. I understand when you're desperate that you know, maybe after that horrible opener, that's why they felt they needed to go for mid. But you gotta think in the long run, right? And you were only like 5 minutes in, so much time left. Oh, but there's a heavy artillery piece. So much time left, especially with a Soviet deck that usually does really well the longer the game goes on. Not the right call here, but you know, it is what it is. Yeah, pretty straightforward. You know, kind of the replay that, I'll be honest, I don't want to see. But yeah, hope you still enjoyed it. I hopefully gave you some nice tips. And now, let's do the Wargames. Alright. Obviously, Leopard 2, right? Wait, I did the wrong date. 70 kmh. Full optics for stealth. Not in either mech or armored or both. Okay, less than 10 HP with 70 kmh can only mean 5 HP, really. So it's a Jeep, a relatively fast Jeep. Like a UAC. I think UACs are 70. It's not that it's recon or command UAC given the price and stealth. But it could be Korea UAC, for example. It's not an ATGM. It's a recoilless rifle. Like the East German. It's not that. It's not in thingy either. How much is the Wombat, I wonder? Sorry, how fast? It's 80. What else is there? Rover 106. Oh no, there's also a Rover. But Eugen isn't entirely consistent. Let's give the South African a try. Oh, it's also 80, okay. It is the M40 though. It could no, it has to be a M113s. What if I go for M106? Mitsubishi. It's not the Mitsubishi. Also mortars. M201. I think that is a Jeep. What nations and coalitions do we have left? We still have. Does do the US even have a recoilless rifle Jeep? Laro? Did we? Nope. God damn it. What even is left? Nikaf? No, it could be. Nope. We still haven't gotten the nation. Is there a red formation that has the M40? Italy has. What does Italy? It's not the one. What is the Canoniera? Yeah, okay. Why is there no hyphen? Okay. And then today, well, for me today, we got a tank, a recon tank, a relatively slow recon tank, a relatively old recon tank. Could be like a T-55. Oh, it doesn't, right? The T-55 doesn't have a gun. I forgot. It's not the D-10T. It's 60 kmh. Could be the CTQ 62? Maybe. Not Chinese. It's not Chinese. What other relatively old recon tank is there? Leopard 1. No. Plus 65. Oh, 20 points. Maybe I should look at that, huh? 20-point recon tank. M41. A1. The DK1. Oh, it's 25. Make motor armor support. It's not in Marines. Okay, that doesn't really help me much. 20 points. Could technically be wheeled, to be fair. It could be wheeled. It doesn't have to be tracked. If it's wheeled, it could be the V1. They're both in the vehicle tab, though. Both in the vehicle tab. Only the Italian one is in the recon tab, but that's not. It's also not 20 points. 20-point recon could be a FV. What size is medium? I think the other scorpions, I think they're small, but this thing isn't small. Oh, I'm so good at this game. Oh, it's basically the same thing as a scorpion, but on an M113 chassis. Just a bit slower as a result, but also it's also medium size and not small. Also, it's 3 front armor, which is nice. Damn, man. When you get all the things to click in your brain, damn, that feels good. Well, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Bye bye.